Hello, good morning to one and all. Myself Dr. Atul. I'm welcoming you all to my YouTube channel Aradhana Iyer Blog AK. So we are dealing with the anatomical series. So last class we had discussed regarding the radius bone, the introduction part of the radius bone, one of the bone which is coming in the forearm region. So we will be continuing that session in this class. So before going to the video, if anyone is new to the channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also you can press on the bell button and click on the enable all notifications so that you will receive each notification when we upload the new videos. And also don't forget to share to your friends. It will be very useful classes for the medical students and who are preparing for the PSC examinations. So let's go into the session, that is radius bone. Radius bone we had seen in the introduction part. Now let's discuss each end, that is the upper end, shaft, and the lower end in detail. So we'll be starting from the upper end. It is one of the ends, one of the part. We can say totally three parts are there, that is upper, shaft, and the lower end. So we are discussing right now is upper end. Let's see what are the peculiar things which is there in the upper end. So talking regarding the upper end, it is head is present there. So the head part of the radius is disc shaped. Head is disc shaped. If you have noticed the radius bone, you can see the head part is disc shaped, and or you can say as a circular, in, and this head is in the disc shaped and it has been covered with the hyaline cartilages. It is covered with hyaline cartilages. So simultaneously you can prepare for the PSC examination also. They can ask you anything, any questions, so you try to make questions from every topic, whichever topic you are dealing with. If you are dealing with the bones of the forearm, just see how many bones are there, which are the bones, what are the name of the bones, in how many number it is in present. So from every topic you can try to make some of the questions which will be useful in the PSC examinations. So from here only you can get how many ends are there. You can get for 3 ends are there. How many radius bone are present in the human body? 2 bones. Okay, it is placed medially or laterally. It will be placed laterally only. If you are seeing in the right hand, it will be placed laterally. If in left also, it will be laterally only. And the head portion is in the disc shaped with covered with the hyaline cartilages. Okay, and it has been correlated with the lower limb. One bone is that is tibia. So the correlation is from the tibia. So like that you can make questions personally, means self. You can go and make some of the questions which will be useful, and you can write down in the notes. It will be very useful when you see later. So it is having a superior concave surface. So superiorly it is in the concave surface. Superior concave surface it is having. Superior concave surfaces. It articulates with the capitulum of the humerus at the elbow joint. So this superior concave surface it is having. So that superior surface, it is articulate with the, it articulates with the capitulum of humerus. So humerus is present in the superior bone is humerus. While we see from the shoulder to the elbow regions, the humerus bone comes. So the inferior part of the humerus, there is capitulum that articulates with the superior surface of the radius, superior concave surface of the radius. So if you talk about the humerus, it is like this somewhat, the down part. Okay, the down part is like this. This is the humerus. So this is the inferior surface. Okay, inferior surface is like this. So this is known as the capitulum. So here comes the radius bone. So here only this is the elbow joint. Okay, so shoulder joint, radius bone, inferior part, starting the radius bone, superior part. So this is the elbow joint, and this is part is the capitulum, which we talk right now. So it articulates the head of the radius, articulates with the capitulum of the humerus. This is the humerus. This is the radius. Superior surface is concave and it is a head portion is here. It articulates with the capitulum of the humerus bone. Okay. And it is forming a radiohumeral joint. It forms radiohumeral joint. So radio is for radius bone, humeral is for the humerus bone. Together it makes the radiohumeral joint. And next is let's discuss some of next part, that is the upper end is over. Next we will discuss the shaft portion. So shaft portion. So here no that much surface anything coming, only one I have told. Next is the shaft portion, that is the middle part of the radius, that is upper end, then shaft, then lower end. So shaft we are discussing right now. So coming here, let's see how many borders and the surfaces it is having. So 3 borders it is having and 3 surfaces it's having. So let's discuss the borders which are present in the shaft of the radius bone. So anterior border, posterior border, and the medial border. Medial border is also known as interosseous border. You can make note, interosseous. So this also you can expect in the entrance if you just write it separately, interosseous border. So anterior border is here, anterior border, medial or interosseous, and the posterior border. So anterior border extends from the anterior margin of the radial tuberosity to the styloid process. So when we speak this anterior border separately, let's speak the anterior border separately. So anterior border, upper half is here, middle portion is here, and the lower half is here. So anterior border, anterior border. So it extends from the anterior margin of the radial tuberosity to the styloid process. So let's see upper half first. In the shaft portion only, upper half, middle, and the lower half is there. So in upper half it is present as oblique. So anterior border in the upper half of the radius, anterior border, that is upper half, it is in oblique, and vertical in the lower half. So lower half it is vertically it is present, and the oblique part is called as the anterior oblique line, and the lower vertical part is crest like. Lower vertical part is the crest like. It is not that much important here, just you can know 3 borders are there, that is anterior, posterior, and the medial. Posterior border is the mirror image of the anterior border, okay, and the upper oblique part is known as posterior oblique line. Here we see in the anterior oblique line, in posterior border you can see posterior oblique line, that much only. Next is the medial one, that is some one important point is there in the medial border or interosseous border. That is medial border is also known as the interosseous border, that is one of the point, and it is the sharpest of the 3 borders. So which border is sharpest of the 3 border? That is the medial or interosseous. 3 borders are there, so sharpest is the medial border. Next let's discuss the surfaces. We had told surfaces also there are 3 in number, that is the anterior, posterior, and lateral surface. Anterior surface, lateral surface, and the posterior surface. So anterior surface lies between the anterior and the interosseous border. and the posterior lies between the posterior and the interosseous border. So anterior lies between the anterior and interosseous border. Anterior and the interosseous border. Posterior surface lies between the posterior and interosseous border, and the lateral surface lies between the anterior and posterior. So mainly you have to remember the shaft portion is having 3 borders and the 3 surfaces. Sharpest of the 3 border is the medial or interosseous border. Okay. Next, let's discuss the lower end. So we have discussed the upper end. There is head and neck. Upper end, it is in the circular, or we can say as a disc shape. It articulates with the capitulum of the tube, that is humerus bone. Okay. Then we discuss the shaft. It is having 3 borders, 3 surface, 3 borders. Medial or interosseous border is the sharpest one. 3 surfaces we have discussed, that is anterior, posterior and the lateral surface. Anterior surface, it is being present the anterior, between the anterior and the interosseous. Same posterior surface between the posterior and the interosseous border, and the lateral surface lies between the anterior and the posterior border. Let's discuss the lower end. Lower end is the widest part of this bone. So which is the widest part of the radius? Widest part is the lower end of the radius. It has 5 surfaces. Very easy. That is the first one is the anterior, posterior, medial, lateral surfaces, and the 5th one is the inferior surfaces. So anterior surface. Anterior surface is in the form of a thick prominent ridge, and the radial artery is palpated against this surface. So coming to the lower end means the wrist region, that is a lower end. When we stand in the anatomical position, here comes the humerus, here comes the elbow joint, here comes the radius, here comes the ulna. So this radius bone and this ulna, it makes a wrist. Here comes the finger. So this wrist, this is the lower part. So this lower part is having the 5 surfaces, including inferior surface. 5 surfaces are there. So this anterior surface, it forms a thick prominent ridge, and here the radial artery is there. Here the radial artery is there. It is palpated against this surface. When we see from the anterior surface, in the lower end, if we palpate, we can get the radial artery there. And the posterior surface present 4 grooves are there for the extensor tendon. The dorsal tubercle lies lateral to an oblique groove. Next is the medial. Medial surface is occupied by the ulnar notch for the head of the ulna. So here in the when we speak the medial surface, it is occupied by the ulnar notch. For the ulnar notch is there. Here is ulnar notch is present. It is for the head of the ulna. Head of ulna, come and sit here. Okay. Ulnar notch is present in the medial side, medial surface. Coming to the lower lateral surface, it is prolonged and downwards form the styloid process. So in laterally it is present the styloid process. Styloid process is very important when we see for the side determination part. So in medially they are present an ulnar notch, which is for the head of the ulna. Laterally there is a it is elongated, like styloid process is there. It is an elongated, prolonged downwards forms the styloid process. And anteriorly, if we see, if we palpate, we will get the radial artery there. Okay. Next is the inferior. Inferior surface bears a triangular area for the scaphoid bone and a medial quadrangular area for the lunate bone. This surface takes part in forming the wrist joint. So which part of the radius bone or which surface of the radius bone forms a wrist joint? You take part in the wrist joint, that is the inferior surface. So inferior surface, we had told we are discussing the lower end 5 surfaces, the 5th surface is the inferior surface. So there is a triangular area is there. So it is for what? Triangular area is here for the scaphoid bone. Scaphoid bone. Triangular area is here for triangular area for the scaphoid bone, and also a medial quadrangular area for the lunate bone. So two bones, for two bones there is a areas are there. Okay, one is triangular area, one is quadrangular area. Two bones are there, that is scaphoid bone and the lunate bone. So this inferior surface take parts in the forming the wrist joint. Wrist joint, that is, it is present in the inferiorly, so it take part in the bone formation, joint formation there. Okay, let's discuss next the side determination part, which is very important. As we had told already, that is a medial lateral surfaces is very important in the side determination part, because laterally there presents styloid process and medially there is a ulnar notch. So let's see the side determination part. Side determination. Side determination. So first of all, the head is projecting upward. Head project upwards. It is in concave and it is also disc shaped or circular. Okay, anterior surface is concave. As we had discussed, anterior surface is concave. And the styloid process, I had told, lateral, when we see in the lower ends 5 surface, lateral surface is having the styloid process. So laterally styloid process is there. So if you see these things, the smaller circular upper end is concave, by a constricted neck is there. Okay, some neck portion is there, and medial aspect you can see the of the neck, radial tuberosity is there, and styloid process is there in the laterally styloid process you can see in the lateral aspect. And next let's discuss the applied anatomy of the radius bone. Applied anatomy of the radius bone. So two main is, there is Colles fracture. First one is the Colles fracture. We say Colles fracture. Fracture is been denoted by this. So there is a fracture of the lower end of the radius. Fracture which is occurring in the lower end of the radius. Lower fragment goes posterior superiorly. So Colles fracture is occurring in the radius bone, that is on the lower end. Next is the Smith's fracture. Smith's fracture. Okay, so here it goes posterior superiorly. Posterior superiorly. When it goes posterior superiorly, we told as Colles fracture. Smith's fracture, lower fragment goes anteriorly superior. Anteriorly superior involves, and the radius involves the transmission of the weight. So two main applied anatomy, if we are speaking, two fractures mainly occurs. That is a Colles fracture occurring in the lower end of the radius, and it goes, the lower fragment goes posteriorly superior. Posterior superiorly. And when it comes to Smith's fracture, it happens in the lower fragment goes anterior superiorly. Anterior superiorly. Okay, so when it goes posterior superiorly is Colles fracture, and when it comes to Smith's fracture, lower fragment goes anterior superiorly. So this was for the today's class. If you like the session, please you can like and share maximum, and be with us. We will be coming with a new topic in the next class. Until then, thank you.